What is up, YouTube? Welcome back, Aeneas here. Today we have not exactly a Monday meta update, but an update nonetheless. We have the new set, the Brothers War, coming out very soon, in about 2 weeks, to MTG and a little bit sooner for the pre-release. So I wanted to start kicking off some of the spoiler season, talking about the cards that I think are going to do very well, and that I'm really looking forward to. And then a little bit after this video, I'll start working on some of my 5 new brews for the new set. So you can find those on my channel and on Twitter. And then hopefully we get in the early access and we can test out some of those decks and see what's good and what's not. But anyway, let's talk about some of the new spoilers and what we think. So far, the set looks really, really cool. I'm so excited for the Brothers War. Uh, Seems like another artifact themed set, pretty efficient costing creatures and cards and stuff like that. So if it's anything like Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, it's gonna be a hit. That's all I can say, because that set was around artifacts. It was really fun. Still some of the best cards in standard right now, so and not overpowered. That's the other thing. It was a synergy based set and wasn't overpowered, which is key. So anyway, let's get into some of the spoilers. This will be part one of 2 or 3 or I don't know how many, but yeah, let's kick things off. So, of course, one of the most important things coming out in the new set are lands. And we finally have the other remaining, I think it's 4 of the Pain lands coming out. The blue-black one really needed this card to make our Dimir decks just a little bit better and more consistent, so really glad to see this coming out. Of course, hurting yourself is never fun, but just having that consistency in the early game, meaning that you can cast your removal in 1 or 2, is pretty big. So yeah, looking forward to getting the rest of the Pain lands, making the rest of the colors work, and hopefully it's not too crazy where people are playing 5 color decks all the time. But I think since it costs you life, probably that's not going to happen. So anyway, that's a great card coming out. Another one that I think is going to be good is Argoth, Sanctum of Nature. So this is a legendary land, or I guess it's not legendary land, but it's a special land because it has meld with one of the creatures in the set that you're going to see in a second. But basically, it enters tapped unless you control a legendary green creature. It taps for 1 green mana, and it has an ability 2 green green and tap. So no sacrifice, just 2 green green and tap, and you create a 2/2 green boar creature token. Then mill 3 cards and activate only as a sorcery. So not exactly sure what the mill synergy is with this. Probably it works with the milled creature on the other side, which we'll look in a sec. But just having a 4 mana, or I guess kind of 5 mana, to create a 2/2 all the time in late game, that's pretty big. We haven't seen that since like Castle Ardenvale, I think it was, which made the 1/1 for 5 mana. So this is almost strictly better than that. And so I'm sure this is going to see some play, whether it's with the meld card or whether it's just in the green aggro deck. Like, this card looks pretty strong, and I'm sure it's going to see some play. So yeah, that's one that's coming up. That's pretty good. I guess my cards are a little out of order. We'll talk about the meld stuff in a second, but another card that looked good to me was Ashnod's Harvester. So this is a 2 mana 3/1, which is that's just that's not that great. It's like okay, but not good. When it attacks, exile target card from a graveyard. That's useful for getting rid of things like the underdog, which is so annoying in standard right now. So that might be the answer to underdog. And then it also has Unearth for 2 mana, so even when it dies, you can cast it again and get in that extra little 3 bit of damage plus the exile again. So basically, just a great answer for underdog. You can trade with something, and then later when they cast their underdog, you can exile it from the graveyard. So, yep. I think probably it will see that some play in some aggro decks, especially if underdog and mono black are still popular. Okay, Feldon Ronom Excavator. Looks really cool to me. Has haste, is a 2/2. Can't block, but I don't think you care if you're playing a red aggro deck that it can't block. And whenever it's dealt damage, exile that many cards from the top of your library, choose one of them. Until end of turn, you may play that card. So, uh, at the very least, you attack in with this. Maybe they have like a 3-2 or something on the board. You trade. You get to look at the top 3 cards of your library, and you can play them till your next turn. That's pretty bonkers. Or maybe you have some synergy where like some cards that might do 1 damage to every creature on the battlefield. This takes damage, right? It doesn't say combat damage, so if it takes damage, then you get to exile cards off the top. You could even possibly run some red sweepers, I don't know, in your deck that does like 3 damage to all creatures. You're going to draw some cards off this, so seems quite good. At the very least, it'll probably see play in some mono red aggressive deck. So yeah, maybe mono red will be back and strong again in best of 3, or it's already decent in best of 1, so maybe it'll be even better. But we'll see. All right, one of the commands that looks good to me. Sorry for the low res. It's from Mythic Spoiler, but Gix's command. It says put 2 1/1 counters on up to 1 creature, gains lifelink until end of turn. Destroy each creature with power 2 or less. Return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with the highest power among creatures they control. So this could possibly end up being like almost a board wipe at some points, because you could do like sacrifice the greatest power and then destroy each creature with power 2 or less. So maybe you kill their one big thing and then all their small things. So that's like a board wipe. Even if you only killed 2 things with this, it's still pretty good. I mean, 5 mana to kill 2 things is about on rate. So I think that would be worth it for you. And you could even possibly like kill their biggest thing and get 2 creatures back from your graveyard, which also seems very good. So probably the only thing you wouldn't do is the +1/+1 counters and lifelink, unless you're just like really low on life and you just need a way to get back into the game, or maybe finish off the opponent or something like that. So all of the modes seem viable, but the destroy ones are obviously what makes it good. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good card. Definitely, most likely a 2-for-1 value, sometimes a 3-for-1 value. So it's a good card. Yeah. All right. Next one, Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. This is probably gonna see play in like either Rakdos or Mono Black Aggressive Shell. It might not see play if the life matters that much, but the big difference on this one, then there was like an enchantment that you pay the mana cost of the card that you draw. This one is you pay 1 life. So 1 life is not that big of a deal. You attack in with 2 or 3 creatures, you draw 2 or 3 cards, and you pay like 2 to 3 life. That's not that big a deal, especially if you're the aggressor deck. You're going to be pretty fine with that. So it's kind of like a anti-board wipe, because you're refilling your hand, and the opponent's got to kill this because you're getting value off of it. And then if they don't kill it, I don't know if you'll ever use it. Maybe you wouldn't. Doesn't seem that great, but it has this 7 mana ability, discard X cards, and you play stuff from your opponent's library. Maybe that could see play at the very late game, but probably not. You probably just want that first ability. But yeah, seems decent in aggro shell. Okay, and then finally, Control is getting a good 2 mana removal that we needed so badly. Go for the Throat. Destroy target non-artifact creature. Yes. So happy to see this. Believe this is a reprint. I'm pretty sure that we've had this before in past sets, but really happy to see it again. Instant speed, 2 mana, destroy. It's going to destroy almost every creature. Now in draft, this might not be that good because the new set is primarily artifact based. But what we've seen so far, at least, there's not that many good artifact creatures. So, what's in standard right now? Almost no artifact creatures at all. I can't even think of one that is played regularly in standard. So, this is going to be great against everything that's currently played in standard. And then with the new set, there might be some artifacts, but I'm sure it's not going to be dead against everything that's played, unless there's just like a pure artifact deck, which we haven't seen anything like that yet. So, really good 2 mana removal, much better than Infernal Grasp. So I really can't wait to get my hands on this and start playing with this one. Might even be playable in Historic, to be honest, or Pioneer. Does Pioneer have this? I'm not sure, but Historic doesn't have this. And there's only maybe one Artifact Affinity deck that you wouldn't want to play this against. But everything else in Historic, like this is pretty good. So yeah, I could see play older formats too. So cool. Control has something. I mean, I guess we have the Gix command, which is pretty good, but this one definitely is going to be control stable for sure. All right, next one, Hercule. I guess it's Hercule. Okay, Hercule, Master Wizard. It's a legendary creature, 2/4 for 3 mana. At the beginning of your end step, if you cast a non-creature spell this turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. For each card type among non-creature spells you've cast this turn, you may put a card of that type revealed among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. So, most likely the play pattern for this is something like you play it on turn 4, then you cast like a consider or an opt, something like that. You draw a card, and you can kind of stack the top of your deck a little bit. Then this ability triggers at the end of your turn, and you get to draw an instant because you cast an instant, right? Could also play this on turn 4, cast something like play with fire or something, kill a creature, and then now you get to try to draw an instant spell, something like that. So I think you'll have to be a little bit careful with your building restrictions of the deck. Like you probably need quite a lot of a specific type that's non-creature. So maybe you want all instants or all sorceries or something like that. And it only triggers at the end of your end step, so probably not counter spells, or at least not too many counter spells. But it's it's a value engine, right? It's generating new cards as long as it survives. Got a decent body. I think it'll see play. At the very least, your opponent has to kill this. So yeah, seems good. Yeah, I think it'll see play. All right, next card, Kayla's Command, 3 mana command, sorcery speed, but it creates a 2/2 colorless construct artifact creature token, or you can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control and it gains double strike, or you can search your library for planes and put it in your hand, or the last one, gain 2 life, scry 2. So that last one's probably not that great. Maybe if you're desperate, you can do it to find something. So most likely you're making the 2/2 and you're getting a planes, and possibly you're doing the +1/+1 counter and double strike if you're like swinging in for lethal, or you don't want the opponent to block or something like that. So yeah, I mean, just 3 mana for a 2/2 that gets you a free card, a land, seems pretty decent. It's possible this might not see that much play, but we have other creatures in the format that do similar effects, so I can't imagine that this is that. I can't imagine this is bad, but it might be that standard is too powerful for this. We'll see. But yeah, looks pretty good, flexible command to me. So yeah, I think it'll see some play. All right, and then probably the most powerful command that I've seen so far, Mishra's Command. So it's also sorcery, but it's X and a red, so you get to pay however much you want. And then the effects, you get to choose 2. Choose target player. They may discard up to X cards. Then they draw a card for each card they discarded. So kind of a what is it? A looting effect. Other ability is this spell deals X damage to target creature. The next ability is this spell deals X damage to target planeswalker. And the last one is this target creature gets plus X and gains haste until end of turn. So notably, that last one, you could cast it for X equals 0 because they would still get haste, but the other things wouldn't really do anything. So I think ideally you would want to play this for like X equals 2 or X equals 3, and then deal 3 damage to a creature and maybe 3 deal damage to a planeswalker, something like that. So you could kind of kill 2 things for 1. Other than that, I guess if you're playing against a deck with no planeswalkers, it's going to be like kill a creature and loot some of your cards to try to find some better cards, something like that. So doesn't seem, definitely seems good. Like just killing a creature and getting some bonus effect, definitely good. The value, like the cost for it, if you don't get to kill a planeswalker, is a little bit worse. So maybe it's a sideboard card against certain matchups, but definitely seems like a good command. All right, this is kind of a staple in older formats. Probably also going to see some play in standard, I would imagine. Though Delver of Secrets didn't see any play. Um, but just it's a pretty strong card. It's probably going to see play in mono red aggro, if nothing else. Maybe there's going to be some Is It Prowess deck, possibly. Like I already made some Is It Prowessy type deck, so this could fit in that potentially. But it's a 1 mana 1/2 with haste. Has prowess, so each time you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. We have what? Uh, we have so many of these. Electrostatic Charger, I think it's called. And we have Balmor, the flying blue-red for a 1/3 that buffs all your dudes. Um, yeah, so probably there is some sort of Is It Prowess deck with this 1-drop now. I think that probably pushes you over the top where you can actually play some sort of Is It Prowess type deck with maybe some protection spells, maybe some burn spells, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, definitely you'll see play in Historic, I imagine. And yeah, there's a good chance it'll see Standard play as well. So, seems sweet. Just a strong card. All right, and then here is the control player's dream right here. We finally got a good planeswalker that draws us cards. Feels so nice. We were stuck with all these like wandering emperors and kaitos, which have make a bunch of tokens. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, this one draws you cards. And whenever you draw a card, you put a loyalty counter on Teferi Temporal Pilgrim. It's 5 mana, 4 loyalty. 0 ability, draw a card. -2 ability, create a 2/2 blue spirit token with vigilance. And whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And a -12 ability, which you probably won't cast, but it says target opponent chooses a permanent they control, returns it to their hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control into its owner's library. So basically they get to keep one thing from their board and put the rest in their deck. And so they're going to have an empty board. So it's like a bounce, kind of a bounce. I guess every other permanent after the first one is removal, basically. But for -12, it's not really that great, to be honest. I think since it has the passive that when you draw a card, it gets a loyalty counter, you could potentially get the -12 much easier, especially if you have a deck that's based around drawing cards and cycling and stuff like that. So really seems interesting. You play it down on 5, it's going to immediately have 5 loyalty. If they don't kill it, when you draw on your draw step, it's going to get another loyalty. And if you have any sort of draw spell, like, and I guess it has to be a draw spell, not a put in your hand spell. So you couldn't do Memory Deluge, but you could do Silver Scrutiny, right? The draw X spell. To do it with this, you could potentially put like 5 loyalty on it right away. That seems pretty good. You could make a bunch of 2/2s and make them big. So yeah, it's a good control finisher for sure. You get to make a bunch of 2/2s that grow and grow and grow, and you get to draw cards. So yeah, seems great. Really looking forward to it. it kind of seems like Tef5, the other Tef5. They're both Tef5 now. Uh, but it's a little bit weaker than that Tef5, which is good, because that one was busted. That one is so busted. So I think this is like a fixed version of that Teferi. So I'm looking forward to it. Probably a good power level for standard currently. So yeah, seems super sweet, super sweet. All right, so we're almost at the end of what I wanted to cover in this first video, but let's talk about, actually, let's talk about this one first. Titania, Voice of Gaia, 1 green green, Reach, legendary creature elemental. It's a 3/4, and whenever one or more lands you are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. So I guess that's the synergy with the land that mills you 3. You want to put the lands in your graveyard because it will gain you some life. Seems very minimal, but sure, life could matter. And then the second ability, at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more lands in your graveyard, then you both own and control Titania, Voice of Gaia, and a land named Bargoth, Sanctum of Nature. Exile them and meld into a star Titania Gaia Incarnate. Alright, so let's look at that one. So anyway, a 3 mana, 3/4 with reach with some upsides is pretty good. Like, it's a decent sized creature. It's tough to deal with. But then it could potentially turn into this, which is a Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Haster. It has power toughness equal to the number of lands you control. So if you're casting the other creature, it's at least 3. And whenever Titania enters the battlefield, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So if you recall, you had to have at least 4 lands in your graveyard, right? So this now becomes a 7/7 at least. And it has an ability, put 4 +1/+1 counters on target land you control, and it becomes an elemental 0/0 creature with haste. And it's still land. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff. Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Haste. Giant body that is growing and growing. And you can also make all your lands into creatures as well. So pretty good finisher, especially in a mono green aggro deck. I guess that second condition's a little bit tricky to do, unless we see a little bit more creatures that mill you. We do have that enchantment, the 2 mana enchantment that mills you and creates 1/1 spirits and something else. So that one will work pretty well with this. But yeah, I think there's some mill stuff currently in standard and green, so you could potentially get this working. So either way, probably see play in mono green aggro, and it could potentially see play in some sort of green self mill or green blue self mill style deck. So it looks pretty good. I think the 2 pieces separately are strong, so getting the milled part is probably just coincidental upside if you just happen to get there or not. But yeah, seems pretty good. All right, the next card, and I think the last card, if I'm not mistaken, is the Transmogrant's Crown. It's a 2 mana artifact equipment, +2/+0. And whenever equipped creature dies, draw a card. Equip cost is 2 or a black. So having a black equip cost means this might see play. Usually when equipment has a 1 mana equip cost, it sees play. And +2/+0 is not nothing. And when it dies, you draw a card. So could see play in a sack deck. Could see play in some sort of aggro deck where the opponent's kind of forced to kill your creatures. But yeah, I mean, it seems good, right? Like, put it on a creature, you play 2-drop, next turn you play this and equip it. Now you got a big old creature they want to kill. They kill it, you draw a card. You'll have to be a little bit careful about playing around removal, but I think it's good. I mean, it's removal protection, it's board wipe protection, and it's good for sack decks because you'll just be drawing 1 mana to draw a card basically. Yeah, seems good. Seems good. All right, I think we've talked long enough for today, but those are some of the top cards I'm really excited for so far. We still got a lot more to reveal from the set, but really looking forward to it. I'll probably put out another video of this later this week, and maybe also for the next Monday meta update as well, since there's not a whole lot going on in the meta. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you're looking forward to as well in the comments, and like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the new brews coming up for the new set. And until next time, have fun and see ya.